Okay, thank you everyone for joining us today for this informal conversation with the Active Learning Academy. We have 3 of our Active Learning Academy cohort members with us today who are what I would consider experts and leaders and real champions for the Student Experience Project surveys. We have Tonya Bates, Melanie Harris, and Sam Suptela, all from the Department of Biological Sciences. And they're here today just to share with you how they've been using the Student Experience projects in their classes and how they've been using the results from the surveys with their students and with their courses to help their students. And so this is a very small group today that we have. It's an open conversation. And so we're inviting everyone to ask questions as we go along. It's very informal. And so I'm going to hand it over to Tonya and Sam and Melanie for them to share with you, but please feel free to ask questions and jump in as we go along. Thank you, Tonya, Sam, and Melanie.
I think I'm starting first. So my name is Tonya Bates, and again, I'm from the Department of Biological Sciences. I teach both biology majors and non-majors, large enrollment courses, 150 to 200, and that's the primary course that I'm using, the Student Experience Project information and interventions in. So I was just going to share one thing that I've started doing this semester. So we think about how to share some of this with our students or how to get some of the information out to our students. And when you get your data from some of your surveys, occasionally you'll see groups that are highlighted that you want to reach out to. So the thing that I chose to share with you today is an intervention supporting financially stressed students. And so I'm going to share my screen and kind of walk you through what I did, where I got the information, and then I'll open it for questions. And so this would be after you've already, started your course, how you would sort of use this information. So give me one moment to share my screen. Share. And so what you should see is, can you see my screen okay? Everybody? Okay, so this is the Student Experience Project library, the practices that we have that you can search through. So I just wanted to start here. You can search for different interventions here, but I wanted to show you how you would use it. So I'm going to switch to another. Can you see a Google document now? Okay, great. So what I did here was I just copied the link, and I'll share this with Jules after, so you can have a copy of this if you would like it, and we can share it with the whole Active Learning Academy. But it has the link that I used from the Student Experience Project library and how to support financially stressed students. So I had a conversation with another member of the Active Learning Academy about how we both had differences specifically with our high financial stress students. And so we wanted to do an intervention to reach out to those students with resources that were specific to the Charlotte campus. And so I have highlighted on the page in italics here so you can see the original information that I got from the Student Experience Project library. And then below, I'm just going to scroll down, and I sent a message out to my class as a Canvas announcement, so it reached everybody actually, and I just plugged in all the Charlotte information. So it actually gave you places that you wanted to put in specific, the food pantry, or things like the loans that we have for students that are like one-time loans that students can get. And so all kinds of stuff, need financial assistance or help paying for college. Here are the places that you might want to go. Sorry, that's my, it's telling me what problems I have with Grammarly. And then the Student Emergency Fund at Charlotte, and it gives them a little information about the resource, how they might use it, so they can read through it and see how they might use this, how they apply for it. So there are links on here as well. The Jamel Niner Food Pantry, so it gives them an address, how they get there, and then a link to that resource as well. Short-term housing, if they need that. A lot of students we see a lot of students who have laptops that might not make it through the semester, or they maybe need to use a laptop. So how to borrow a laptop so they know that's a normal thing that they might need to do, and normalizing these resources. And then another link to another resource. And so this is one way that you can use that library. Once you see sort of what your data looks like, you can search the library, find a resource, and then just customize it. It's pretty user-friendly that way. So I'll pause here, see if there are any questions or comments. Come back to this. and then turn it over to one of my colleagues to share their resources. Questions or comments? All right. Thank you.
I'll ask a question.
Yeah.
So you were looking at your weekly or your survey cycle data.
My
That
initial one, yeah.
so the first, so there's do you do 3 or 4 cycles?
So yeah, Sam and I decided, we talked and decided to do 3 cycles because we teach the same course. So at the point that I'm looking at this data, I don't only have a baseline survey from my students. That's all I have.
So
And
that's
so
your
I
first
haven't.
cycle, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so you hadn't, so if it's the first cycle, I know that we talked about this during the orientation. It's that first cycle, you haven't done any interventions yet. And so it's just that baseline data. And so what you saw in the data was that many of your students were financially stressed.
Yes, that's right. So
Okay.
I had done at least one intervention with an email to my students. That I had done, but I hadn't done any formal interventions with my students at that point. So this is the initial data. You can still do outreach and interventions without any additional surveys being done. This is the first thing that you would look at.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for clarifying that.
You're welcome.
Okay, I will jump in now to kind of piggyback off of Tonya, because as she mentioned, she uses the SEP in her Biology 1110 course, and so do I. We work very closely together. Even, just yesterday, we sat down to look at our second survey data to kind of compare and see how it had changed from our first survey. We just finished our second cycle. So kind of like what Tonya was saying, the way we really use that data is we sit down and we look for those red numbers, because what those red numbers tell you when you look at that table, it tells you that there are certain groups of those target students that are experiencing one of those learning conditions differently than their counterparts, right? So it's comparing, for example, men and women. And if you see in the self-efficacy line that only 40% of women are experiencing that positively, but 60% of men are, then you have that sort of disparity there. And that's kind of what you want to look for. And like Tonya showed you, you can then say, well, for this particular construct, for social belonging, self-efficacy, whatever it might be, you can go to that library, you can find some really quick interventions just to specifically target that group for that construct, and you can start implementing that immediately to see, if you can change that between that survey data and the next cycle that you do. What I wanted to share with you for my part is not so much an intervention, but something that you can do going into your course. One thing that Tonya and I like to do is we set up a Canvas page that explains to the students in like the first week of class what the student experience surveys are, because we found kind of going through the project that just doing the surveys is sort of an intervention in and of itself if the students feel like you're listening to them. If you go into your course and you just throw these surveys in and you don't really talk about what they are or what they mean, and you never bring up, interventions or data or anything like that, the students, I think, can sometimes feel less heard than they may have even if you didn't do the survey. If you come to someone and say, what can I do to make this better? And they tell you, and then you hear nothing else, that's kind of not the best approach. So we really like to tell them, we're going to do these surveys, and here's why we do them and what they can mean for you. So I'm also just going to share my screen real quick. So I've just pulled up my Canvas course. We put it again in like the first module. So it's what the students will do the first week of class. It's in their little welcome and orientation week. I'm just going to navigate to it. Sorry. Many links. So they have student experience surveys here. So this is the page that they will see, and they'll just kind of read through it. And basically what it tells them, this semester our class is participating in this initiative. We really want to learn how you as the student are experiencing our course and how we can improve it, what we can do to make it better. And so we say here, the end goal is to have you help me improve the way I teach the course. There's just a little bit of background information here about like the university and our student population. There's a link to like the diversity page. And then we tell them, all you need to do during the semester is take these 3 surveys. You can always change this to 4 or 5, however many you do in your course. They take less than 5 minutes. You'll be given an automatic 100 in the grade book. we do that just to encourage participation, because again, we have a bunch of students. We've got sometimes 150 or 200 of them. And I would say we get pretty good participation when we give a little bit of a incentive to get it done. That we tell them the dates that we're going to do the surveys, when they'll be available in Canvas. So this semester we did one, obviously, is the baseline. We just did the second one last week, and then we're doing the last one the last week of class. And then we kind of give them a little blurb, you know, please know I intend to use these responses to improve the class, to enhance your experiences. I genuinely care about your feedback. You know, I'm not going to know what you said. It's anonymous. And then I also like to add, you know, if you have questions about the results anytime during the semester, I'm happy to go over them with you. Because me personally, I don't share the actual data from the table. I do talk about it, and Tonya and I were actually talking yesterday about how we're going to address what we saw in the second survey tomorrow during class. We'll talk about it, but we don't actually show it broken down just for various reasons. And I'm happy to talk about that if you would like. But, you know, I do tell students if they do want to see the results, if they want to come by, like, I'm happy to show that, you know, information to them. So that's kind of what I wanted to share. Just like Tonya said, you know, I'll open it up now if anyone has questions or comments or anything like that. Feel free.
Okay, so I will go next if there are no questions. So I will be reiterating many of the things that Tonya and Sam have already said about how I handle this. So much like Tonya, I teach both the they're introductory courses, but one's for non-majors, one's for majors. They're both high enrollment. The non-majors does typically have more than 100 students. The one for the majors is a little less, but still around 75 students. And I've used this over the last several years in both courses. So again, much like Tonya, I have some things in place, some of the interventions from the beginning, with the syllabus modified and the welcome message in Canvas. And I have a video that they can see about me, so they learn about me before that first day of class. And so I have some things in place, but I do the first survey at the very beginning. So even though there have been some interventions and they may have met me in the first face-to-face class, they still know very little about it. There's no significant interventions being done. I do agree with Sam that the survey itself is to some degree an intervention, and the way that you might talk about it and use the results with the students is an intervention in and of itself. So what I did with the very first one, where we have that baseline information, I did actually show the table of results with my class. Since that was the baseline one, I wanted them to see what I was seeing, what the different groups in essence, and what they were telling me coming into the class. But that was only the first one. I am doing 4 surveys through this semester. So they have done the second one, and I have seen those results, and I can share that if you want me to. I do have that pulled up, but I probably won't be showing that to the class. What I do like to do is show like a comment after that initial survey. I pulled a comment from the report that I received. And I showed that in class, copied and pasted into my presentation, but I showed that comment. And it was one that really struck me about what was being said, but it was also something that I felt like I could address. And I wanted whoever made that comment to know that they weren't the only ones, that I was sure they weren't the only ones who felt that way. And again, I wanted to be sure to address that. And that also let the students know that I'm paying attention to it, that I'm reading those comments, and that I do care about the things that they're saying. I haven't yet done that with the second one from the results from that, and I'm not entirely sure. It depends on the comments that I see, if there's something that I would like to bring to the whole class. But I do think that it's important for them to know going into those surveys how they're going to be used, to stress that they are anonymous, When I showed that comment in class, I made sure to tell everyone that I had no idea who said that, to try to encourage that honesty that you want from them. Much like Tonya and Sam, I do give some points. It's not a lot, but I do give points for doing it. And let's see, my participation for the second one was not quite 100%, but it was pretty high because of that. So again, I will stop. I think there were some comments maybe, but I will stop and see if there are questions there.
Hi, everybody. I'm Heidi. I'm instructional designer in the Center for Teaching and Learning with Jules. I wanted to ask, do you feel like when you bring this back to the students that maybe a student might feel encouraged to individually come to you? Like, have you noticed that the anonymity is taken away when a student feels like they're in a safe, trusting environment, that maybe they do come to you about something that's problematic? And I guess that can go to anybody.
I would say in general, yes, but I think that a lot of that probably starts with before they come to the class, and some of those earlier things that are in place. Reassuring them that that the classroom, as far as I'm concerned, is a safe place, and that coming to my office is a safe place to come and to talk to me. So I think that some of that starts before those surveys and before sharing that knowledge and that information with them. But that certainly does promote that as well. That again, showing that I'm open and caring, and that I'm concerned about their experience at the university and the class.
Can I ask another question? Oh, go ahead, Sam, and then
I was just going to add something real quick to that.
Yeah.
So Tonya and I, we were looking at our data yesterday, and we're still seeing some of these groups that are highlighted in red. And we decided that, in tomorrow's class, we wanted to spend the first part of it talking about the data with them. So what we had decided we were going to do, because they do have that, anonymity when they're doing the survey, we don't know who's saying what. And, while that's a good thing, I do also think that students want to also talk to us as, instructor to student. Like they sometimes want to take that away. So what we were planning to do tomorrow is to kind of talk informally with the students and say, we've just finished our second student experience project. Thank you for, your participation and your input. And here are some things that we've noticed. We've noticed some trends where there are these groups of students, you're struggling in these areas. And what we wanted to give you the opportunity to do is give us some feedback, with or without your name. So we were going to pass out some note cards and tell them that they can put their name on it if they want. And if they have anything that they wanted to share with us, like why they answered the questions that they did the way they did, if they rated something really high, tell us why, because I do think the SCP does miss that kind of piece of the puzzle there. It gives us these numbers, but we don't know what the interventions are just from the data that are working or not working. And of course, they don't have to write anything if they don't want to. They can also make it anonymous, but we were kind of hoping that would give us even more insight into what things we're doing that we're doing well, that are really working and helping students feel better about some of these things, or maybe some of the things we're doing that are not. So that's kind of our plan, how we're trying to kind of have that conversation with them.
Yeah, that is great. That is such a great way to, and that was my next question, is how do you use the data to make your course agile, to make your teaching agile, right? And that's such a great way to bring in that note card idea for students to share if they want to, and still be anonymous, like you said. Have you found that these change the way you're teaching? These surveys, do they change the way you're teaching?
Honestly, no, I don't think that they've changed the way that I teach. I think they've changed, how do I put it? Just making me more conscientious of the things that I might say. but not so much the way that I teach, if that makes any sense.
I agree. I think most of us were probably already trying to be innovative in our teaching and make sure we're addressing different factors in our teaching, but this has made me more aware of my students as a whole individual, and being more flexible and being more open and just learning more about them. I've appreciated just getting to know my students overall better. One additional thing that we do in our class in biology 1110 is we do reflective surveys with our students, and those are not anonymous. So we are able to communicate directly with students. Sometimes they'll tell us things that they also told us in the student experience survey. And the other thing that I'll just point out is they don't all get that qualitative feedback for every question in the student experience survey. So that's another reason that we want to do the note cards and have anonymous option, you know, as well for students.
Thank you. I appreciate hearing about your experiences with your students and how it has influenced.
I want to ask a question that we had last week. We had a meeting with some leaders from the Rakes Foundation, and towards the end of the day, we had a focus circle. And at that point, someone asked the question, has using the student experience project survey made teaching your classes easier? And then there was a little bit of a discussion back and forth about, is easier the right word or not? And so I want to put that question actually to the three of you, because I know at that point, Tonya and Sam had been there earlier in the day, but you weren't there for this part. And so I'll ask all three of you, do you feel like since you started using the student experience project that it's made teaching easier, or your classes easier, or is that the right word?
I wouldn't say that it's easier. It has definitely changed it. It's like Melanie and Tonya said, I don't think it's changed our teaching, because all of us were already doing a lot of the things we do now for teaching wise. But you know, what it has made us do, I think, is pay more, you know, closer attention to the students. Like Tonya said, we can appreciate them as a whole individual, not just a grade in the grade book. It's certainly changed, I think, some things in the course as far as like the way we grade things and how we are now more flexible with deadlines. I wouldn't say it's made it easier, but I think it has made it more enjoyable. You have those connections with your students, and you can, again, you know, just see them as an individual. And so I think it's been good in that way, but sometimes it also, I don't want to say it's made it harder, but it has made, you know, I think it's opened my eyes to like some of the things that our students go through that maybe I didn't fully appreciate before, or that maybe I knew were going on, but didn't really know how to address it. So if anything, it's made it more, I don't know, more of a, it's also made me more, you know, more willing to go out and search for like resources to share with them if we see they're struggling in one, you know, aspect of their education, or not even in education, but in their personal lives. Like Tonya and I are constantly scouring the internet for, you know, we noticed someone said that they were struggling with sleep. What resources can we find to share with our class that can help with that? You know, so it's been very, it's actually added a bit to the plate, but in a good way.
Okay, thank you. So for our participants who joined today, what were you hoping to learn about? What questions might you have as far as your implementation of the Student Experience Project with your courses through the Active Learning Academy right now?
I'm new this year to ALA, and so I think for me it's really just getting more context about the survey. And you know, I did the initial survey and got that big report back, and then I suddenly felt like overwhelmed, like how do I share this with my students? Like it didn't seem I didn't feel like I was going to like bring those numbers to class. And I also do my own survey that I ask really specific questions about my course. And so I'm just trying to figure out how to use those two things together and not overburden the students. But it's helpful to kind of see what, how you're reading your survey data and then looking for some specific interventions and sharing it with the class. So actually just seeing those examples is really helpful. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out how this all fits in, I guess. So this is really helpful context. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else?
To me, this is very, very new to me as well. When I get a report, and I apologize for my rusty voice. When I get a report, it was like Catherine, it's very overwhelming. I didn't really know which aspect, and there's tons of resources there, and I didn't really know where to start. And the way that I approach is I really look at the overall class. So I have a class of 25 only, so small group graduate level. So I didn't really look into the red numbers or figures, but instead I really look at the category where the overall percentage is much lower, and then kind of start from that aspect, kind of approaching it. And so some of the things that I have done so far, on top of everything else I've been doing, is actually I learned from one of our team members, or our team lead. Actually, she sent out in the individual email to every single student in her class, and I know she has like over 100. And that just blew my mind. But I thought, well, it's worth a try. It actually took me like 2 hours to send just 25 individual students. But what I did is right before the midterm grade was due, and I just kind of let them know where they stand, and then kind of use more of encouraging words to help them. And I got, I would say probably almost close to 10 students saying that, oh my goodness, I never had a professor which reached out to individual students, and thank you so much for doing that. And so I think that kind of, yes, the time, it took me a lot of time to do that, but it's that I feel like the investment was so worthwhile, because students feel like they are more, they're more trusting, and they feel like I'm definitely are caring for them. I'm caring for them, and knowing that I'm here to support them. So I think that definitely it's a worthwhile way of approaching it. But I didn't really look at the individual number. And I just went back when all of you were presenting. I did notice that I do have some kind of numbers in red, and that may be the next step I will tap into to see how I can kind of bridge the gap a little bit more. So thank you for the information that you share.
Okay, thank you.
I was just going to say that when you look at all of those resources, when I started, I agree that there's so many resources there. And when I see an area that I feel like I want to work on, and I look at those resources, I'm like, oh my gosh, where do I even start? How do I choose? And so, I really just thought about my personality, what I felt like would work for me. And in the class, because I know my classes fairly well, even if it's the beginning of the semester, I know these classes and these topics well enough that I feel like I could make a choice in what intervention or what resource I wanted to use, what might work. So I agree, it can be overwhelming. So just try to pick something that you feel like would work the best for you and your class.
Yeah, and there's just so much, we've got the Canvas site, and the Canvas site then links to the student experience project interventions. And it can feel, I'm sure it can feel overwhelming when you're trying to figure out, well, what do I choose? What do I do? But I think it's just picking something and going for it. You can't go wrong, with an intervention. You're just trying to help your students.
I just wanted to say something that I'm here to see, of course, Sam's in our group, I guess. She's the lead in the Active Learning Academy for the Student Experience Survey. But I just, this semester, it was the first time that I actually shared the data with the students. Shared the data, meaning actually showed the tables and explained that these are the reds and then this is what I'm seeing. And what I did was I actually read out a couple of the comments that they put in there. And I said, you know, if you provide positive feedback, like or negative feedback, it's always helpful if you kind of expand on it, because that helps us the most, especially for the negative ones. If you say that you don't like something, if you say what part of that you don't like, it makes it easier for us to fix in that case. So I think next time around, I think I'm not going to spend time going through all of the tables or all of the numbers, all of the reds, but I will focus more on the comments and again, encouraging them. I'm hoping my second survey is this week. So I'm hoping that I'll see a little bit more of the comments. There's usually not very many. So in a large class, there's only a couple of comments where they actually say, you know, why they felt certain way. But
yeah, the issue with that Farzana, is that the survey only gives them like the opportunity to leave qualitative feedback for like one question, and it's totally random. So they can't leave that feedback for everything.
I see.
They make it one box to type something in for like one question, and it's random. So that's why.
Is it a random thing? That I didn't know. Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so if you want that feedback, that's kind of like that's one of the issues Tonya and I have too. So that's why we're going to do the note card thing. You may want to consider doing that too, to get more of that explanation.
It's an online class, so I gotta figure out some other way of doing it, some other another survey. Yeah, I think because of the student experience survey, I'm thinking that maybe figuring out some sort of interaction, at least when I'm talking to them about these, if we could do some sort of asynchronous, synchronous thing, it would be nice to get some sort of instant feedback. But we can figure out something in terms of doing it online and anonymous still.
Yeah, Farzana, could you set up a poll everywhere question that they answer anonymously, and then you give them some time, you know, it just stays open for a little while and you give them some time to answer that way?
Yeah, I can probably do that. I haven't done it, but that's a good idea.
Yeah, because I've done that with, you know, muddiest points or something like that when we had that Friday that we were off because of the hurricane coming through. I had a poll everywhere question that sat open for a while as they were working on stuff that day, where they could let me know their issues. So that might work.
Yeah, poll everywhere would be a good idea. Thank you.
Took me a moment to find my unmute button there for a moment. This has been really good conversation. To our experts here on the call today, Sam and Melanie and Tonya, is there anything else that you do with your classes with the data, you know, sharing it with them in class, or any other interventions that you can think of that you'd like to share with us today? Since we are capturing this on a recording and we're going to share it with the rest of the ALA cohort, anything that you can talk about or explain in the remaining time that we have would be very valuable.
I can think of a couple easy things that Sam and I have done. I don't know, surely someone who is listening has colleagues in their department who work on this. I'm lucky because I have a lot of colleagues who are working on it, but share some of the resources. So like, you know, Sam and I teach the same course, but we share a Google Doc with comments and feedback that we might put in an announcement or an email to our students. So if we want to say like, here's some resources on campus, we're talking about, you know, XYZ, or here are mental health resources that everyone can access, or here, you know, we kind of just send that out as an announcement to our class. And we've decided to sort of brand it. We call it Feature Friday for our class. And so we feature either faculty in our department or a resource on campus. That's one thing that you can do depending on what data you see. And I know everybody can do that, but also talking to your colleagues about what they're doing, because you can share some of those resources and ideas. That's a good thing. And then the other thing that kind of came to my mind was belonging stories. I know we all do this, but sharing things, that's an easy intervention that you can do also throughout the semester. You can do it in your syllabus, you can do it through announcements, you can do it through assignments, but telling things like I always tell students, I came in as a criminal justice major, and then I changed my major, obviously, but that's a normal thing to do in college, or struggling in a chemistry course or struggling in a biology course. Those are normal things that happen to all students because of X, Y, and Z reasons. So just normalizing some of those things that happen where they might feel like I'm the only one who experiences this. So we try to do that in our Canvas announcements because it's a large enrollment class, but those were kind of a couple things that popped into my mind as we were having the discussion that are easy intervention, easy delivery through email or through Canvas announcement as well.
Thank you, Tonya. Anyone else?
I know that one of the major interventions that we've want people to do is the syllabus, sort of like the syllabus workshop. So I do think that that's a really good intervention to do, and it's somewhat, I won't say quick, because it can take a lot of work to revamp your entire syllabus, but I think that it can sort of address a lot of the different constructs that the SEP is trying to look at, right? So you can encourage students' self-efficacy, you can make them feel like they belong in that class just by the language that you use in your syllabus. And even just like one thing that Tonya and I do for our syllabus, I can just pull it up real quick and show, because this is something, even if you don't have the time this semester to redo your syllabus, you can add it for your course pretty quickly. On our syllabus, the very first thing that we have, let me just go to it. So many items. It's just this little introductory blurb right here. And so we just are, trying to be super welcoming, just with like a personal note from us as the instructors, like, welcome to my class. I'm glad you're all here. No matter your background, you have what it takes to be successful, which is kind of the message that the SEP is trying to get out to students. We want you to be successful no matter, your background or your social group or whatever it is that you're coming from. And then the other thing that we kind of plop down here is this little picture that I made, which is, just pictures of some famous scientists, a diverse group of scientists. And then at the end, there's like a little blank person. It just says, could that last photo be yours one day, to kind of let them know that they belong in science and that they too could potentially, if they want to, join the rankings of the greatest scientists in the world if they would like. So again, that's just something to think about. Another quick and easy thing that we did is we changed our office hours. We don't call them that because offices can sound, intimidating to some students. We just call them student hours. It's the same thing, but it just sounds more friendly and welcoming. So those are just a couple of quick and easy things that you could do if you wanted to.
More great ideas. Thank you so much, Sam. Melanie, anything else that you'd like to share with us?
I think the only other thing, I do a lot of those same things as well. I think being part of this and thinking more about the students has made me more willing, kind of along the lines of the belonging statement, but just really letting my students know every day that every day is not a great day for me either, that I have stresses, I have deadlines, and, just, trying to be more human with them. And I think that the student experience project has made it easier for me to do that. And I think it's easier then for them to be honest with me, because they don't see me as, just someone in front of the room anymore. They see me as someone who has struggles just like they do. But I do use those assessment wrappers. I call them assessment wrappers. But I like those at the end of a major exam as well, as a reflection piece for them to think about how they prepared for it. But it also gives me good information and the comments that they're seeing there. It's not anonymous because I do it in Canvas, but they get automatic points for doing that as well. So I think that's another useful thing.
Okay, thank you so much, Melanie. That was great. I will open up the floor one more time for any other questions from our participants before we wrap up for the day.
I have something. I gave a presentation on humanizing your course at my previous institution. And so one of the things that I used to be a faculty member. And so I did not even consider in the field that I was in, which was the arts, is one of the discussions that I had after this workshop was with a female faculty who identifies as a woman of color. She's Black. And she said that it's really difficult for her to reveal who she is and be vulnerable in the classroom because she felt like in her field, she would be taken as less credible, that she was young, and she might not get the feedback from students on her course evaluations that would help her get tenure. And so I don't, it was really eye-opening to me to think about the privilege that you have in the classroom, and not everybody has the same privilege. And so have you had experiences like that? Because I love all of these ideas of humanizing your course and sharing who you are and connecting with students. But she really felt she did not have the space or privilege to do this.
That's a tough one. I will say that when I was a younger faculty member, both younger in age and new to being a faculty member, I probably would have felt similarly, not so secure in myself and my role as a faculty member and in the classroom. So I don't have a good answer for that. I do think that one of the reasons why, not just because of the student experience project, and maybe even just going through the pandemic as well, because those two things happened kind of at the same time when we started the student experience project, very similar timing. But I do think that a lot of that comfort that I have, that ease that I feel with humanizing my course and being more true to myself in the classroom certainly has come with age. And again, just a security that I've been doing this a while. I feel confident in myself as an instructor. So I think that part of that certainly just comes with age and experience and confidence in what you're doing. But again, I don't have a good answer for that.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if there is a good answer. It's
Yeah.
complicated, but we talked, and she felt like ultimately it's worth the effort because she did want to make that strong connection with her students. And if it meant that if you took her less seriously, it was better to establish trust. And, she's like, I want all of my students to succeed. So she ultimately said it was a place she was going to go, but at the beginning she wasn't willing.
Yeah, I was just sitting here, just thinking about that a little bit more, and I can't help but feel like, and it's more of a gut feeling, a connection I feel like I have more with my students now as a class, that I'm being more myself. I feel like they see me as a person they can trust more now than maybe when I was not so true to myself, when I was not trying to be so welcoming, I guess. Not that I was putting anybody off, but I'm sure the classroom wasn't quite so welcoming as it is now. And I'm going to guess that they just didn't see me as much of a trusting person because I wasn't like them, I guess, because I wasn't saying I have struggles and, today's not a good day. I've gone into my classroom before and said, y'all, this is just not a good day for me. So I think they appreciate that.
I think you really have to embrace, the things that do make you uncomfortable. I think that's kind of like what Tonya was saying about your belonging story. I think that, going in, you can share like, well, we're women in STEM. We've faced hurdles, we have barriers, we have instances where people have not taken us seriously. We all have those stories and we share those with our students. And I tell them I'm a first generation college student. I came from a background of, farmers and such. And so historically, just like Melanie, I would have never, when I first started teaching, I would have never shared those weaknesses as I saw them back then. I was not comfortable doing that. But I think now I just embrace it and I tell them, this is what I came from. This is what I have faced. These are the challenges that I've dealt with, because I know they have them too. And if they can see someone who is sort of an authority figure that has struggled in the same ways that they might be, or maybe not even in the same ways, but just have had struggles and overcome them, I think that's encouraging for them to see that. And so that's one thing that's really encouraged me to kind of come out of my shell a lot more.
Yeah, thank y'all.
Okay, well, thank you all very much. If we don't have any final comments, then I will wrap us up for the day. Thank you so much to Melanie and to Sam and to Tonya for leading this conversation. I want to give an extra special thank you to Sam, who's going to send us some resources. She's actually already sent me some resources that I haven't shared with y'all yet. She's going to send me more resources and I'm going to bundle them. So what I'll do is when I send out the recording from today, I'll include the resources that Sam is sharing with us with that recording to everyone who has participated today and also to the rest of the Active Learning Academy cohort so they can benefit from today's session as well. So round of applause. Thank you. Okay, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Thank you for joining us.